All right, so welcome back. Today I want to do another video on why the European Union is actually a sleeping powerhouse. Um, so, what I want to delve into is the EU, a giant dormant military. So, the historical precedents of the European military power. So, Europe has had a pretty long storied military tradition. Um, think of the ancient Greeks, the medieval era, the Napoleonic Wars, the Age of Sail, the Roman Empire, um, colonialism, the Spanish and the Portuguese empires, the Russian Empire. Like, Europe was never really lacking for empires or military power for that matter. It's just in recent years, especially in the aftermath of the Second World War, the European Union has sort of colloquially decided we're not doing militaries anymore. And considering modern threats like Russia, we should probably shift away from that. So the potential of a unified European military. So despite our historical prowess, the European Union as a whole has kind of shied away from a unified defense policy or defense policy in general, sort of out of a fear of whatever happened in World War One and Two. But having other nations have powerful militaries and sort of like being completely left behind is not realistically good for you. Also, the European Union has a higher population than the United States and overall higher GPD, which means it's got more potential to be a stronger military force together. So, a European army would not only enhance the bloc security, but also project its power globally. A unified force could deter aggression. It could really assist with crisis management in all areas because, bigger army equals better crisis management. It would give us more strategic autonomy, so the European Union as a whole would, be more able to do things on its own, strategically speaking, and economic benefits. Obviously, having some form of a military-industrial complex is just good business because it's better if you're going to use weapons, and everyone uses them. It's better to make your own than import them from somewhere else, obviously. So the way I think about things is I think, let's say a United States Army for Europe wouldn't really work. You would want to have a European Foreign Legion, and that is because European countries are fundamentally too different to have like a federalized army, and you'd be better off organizing, all together, organizing a single European Foreign Legion. You could use the French Foreign Legion for a model, as it's proven to be a highly effective military unit, drawing personnel from different backgrounds, unifying them by pretty much language and by being in the Foreign Legion. It would foster unity amongst European countries because we're all contributing to this force. So, because it wouldn't necessarily be a French force, but let's say it'd be a European force, um, it would kind of unify the countries a little bit more because they all have this force, sort of. It would leverage diverse skills, obviously. People from different places tend to have different skills and things. So you can then use those skills accordingly. Definitely enhance operational capabilities, and multinational force would be more adaptable and resilient. Um, that's definitely true because you have different populations to draw on. Um, And while creating a European Foreign Legion, it will require significant political will and logistical challenges. The potential benefits are pretty substantial, and it could serve as a cornerstone for a broader European defense policy. So, challenges and considerations: the path to a unified European military is not without any obstacles. Think about things like national sovereignty, budgetary constraints, and differing defense doctrines and needs and wants, and obviously a certain degree of sovereignty. Also, additionally, the relationship between the European Army and NATO would require careful consideration. I don't really think so because pretty much NATO is the United States and all the European countries working together. If the European countries would have a unified force, it would still probably fall under NATO. It would probably simplify the process for the United States as well because they don't have to deal with 27 different nations. They just deal with one French Foreign Legion or one European Foreign Legion, rather. Nevertheless, it would also pose growing geopolitical complexities due to the desire for strategic autonomy. In order to make the case for European defense spending more compelling, um, we should build on our rich military history and leveraging our economic and human resources. That way, the European Union can truly become a global security provider again. I also think the European Union would, to a large extent, be far better at it than the United States because we don't, at least in the modern era, have a similar history in regime changes that the United States does, where the United States is all in favor of democracy as long as you vote for the people that they want to be in power, which is not really good for democracy as a whole because the United States might have some good ideas and going about the way of doing things. It's not like that magically makes them the smartest nation of all, or the wisest, or the fairest, or the most democratic for that matter. So the European Union as a collective economy boasts the largest GDP in the world. It's essential to remember that the bloc is 27 different nations, so they're all contributing to the overall economic output. So this combined economic power is a significant factor in global influence, which is true because the European Union does make a lot of stuff. I believe we're the second biggest trade partner to the United States. The United States obviously is our biggest trade partner, and then we have various trade partners globally. Think about French and German cars being sold pretty much anywhere. They're popular in China, Australia, Africa, North America, and South America. French cars are way bigger in South America than they are in North America, but all the same, Americans do tend to like European luxury vehicles. Think like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Audis, Volkswagens, Porsches. Like they like these kinds of things. Also, electronics companies like Bosch and Siemens, tend to get overlooked. People are forgetting about Airbus, even though, in light of the recent problems at Boeing and their planes falling out of the sky, it might not be so good for the European Union as a whole to be flying all these American planes that seem to have trouble flying. Oh, oops. So, population, a matter of scale. So, the European Union has a way larger population than that of the United States. I believe we have over 550 million. Um, and that's excluding certain nations like Turkey and Ukraine. Um, but it's crucial to consider the distribution of this population. So, because the EU consists of a bunch of different countries who all have their own demographics, the United States has sort of an advantage in that it is able to draw from their pool of 150 million people um, a little bit better than the European Union is, although using the European Foreign Legion system, that might also be like really a non-factor. Um, so yeah, so Europe as a continent has had a longer history of military power projection than the United States. Think nations like Britain, France, Spain, the Netherlands, Portugal, Italy. Um, you know, um, but during over the centuries, all these countries typically what their most favorite pastime is fighting with each other. This is also what caused the need for all these large militaries because if your neighbor has a large military, then you need a large military to counter your neighbor. And also, if you both all of a sudden have this large military, kings, queens, emperors, and presidents, leaders all throughout world history feel the need for when they have something to actually use it. So, and generally, European nations tended to use it on each other far often and and usually far worse than actually on others. Um, the first people the Europeans attacked and invaded were their own. The United States, while a relatively young nation, has kind of rapidly emerged as a global superpower in the early 20th century. This has to do with its geography, the geography of its resources, the economic strength fueled by military expansion. And even though Europe boasts a richer military history, the United States has demonstrated a more consistent and sustained global military presence in the post World War II era. Um, that is also a little bit by force. Any European will know that the United States kind of worked hard to prevent new military superpowers from rising, and especially preventing, I think, sort of low key the rise or the recovery of European militaries by providing them with a constant security umbrella. So, because the European Union never really needs to theoretically spend on defense anymore because we're entirely reliant on the United States for our defense and largely deterrent, aside from France, which is the only European Union country to have nuclear weapons. So we only have one country to provide us with nuclear strategic defense. And um, the United States kind of likes it this way, which makes a lot of sense because it only takes one European country with a powerful military to force the United States into a world war. So, key differences and nuances. So, the economic structure of the European economy is more diversified with strengths in various sectors. The United States economy, while also diverse, has a larger emphasis on technology, resource extraction, and services. Political unity. The EU is a complex political entity with shared decision making processes. The United States is a unitary state with a centralized government. Um, Military strategy. The EU has traditionally focused on regional security and cooperation, while the United States is focused adopting a global posture. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope I see you next